Welcome to Intermediate Macroeconomics. I'm Dr. Dangerous Dave, and we're going to talk about models. We simplify complex systems by constructing models of reality. This is a basic tool of scientific analysis. We use this every day. For example, when someone asks for directions to your home, you don't give precise details like walk 112 meters, 12 degrees north heading, turn to 270 degrees, step up 15 centimeters to the sidewalk, continue for 37 meters to your automobile, turn to 90 degrees, and indeed, no. Most people have a mental model of the local environment, where to find their car, which way the roads go. So it's usually sufficient to say, drive out to the crossroads, turn north on Highway 61, turn right at the statue of the three wolves learning the Macarena, and so on. Here's an exercise I've conducted many times over the years with amazingly consistent results in both small intermediate courses and giant lecture hall introductory courses. A person bursts into the classroom. Apparently there's no one else on campus. The offices, the libraries, the student union building, everything closed, not a soul around. Just me and my students rocking economics. You gotta help me. My car broke down. My cell phone is out of charge. And my significant other is expecting me in 5 minutes on the far side of town. I'm toast if I don't call now. As students of economics, we all sense an opportunity here. So with a show of hands, or using clickers in a giant lecture hall course, how many of you would accept 1 cent to let this desperate person use your cell phone? Now, this is a delicate matter. The borrower has to take the phone out into the hall for privacy, where you can't see or hear what's going on. Again, how many of you would accept 1 cent? In many, but not all cases, there's some altruistic individual who says, I'll do it for free. Otherwise, there may be a vote or two for 1 cent, but no real enthusiasm. So we record this in a table labeled willingness to accept. Now, with a show of hands, how many of you would accept 10 cents? Not many. Oh, wait, all of you who would accept 1 cent should also accept 10 cents. Raise your hands too. Better. We record this result. Now, how many of you would accept $1? Remember, if you would accept 1 cent or 10 cents, you should accept $1. We record this result. At $10, there's more interest. Now, for those of you holding out for a very large amount of money, I'm likely to stop soon. How many of you would accept $100? Show of hands. At $100, it's everyone or almost everyone. Now I'm going to assume that anyone who hasn't voted would accept $1,000 to let this person make this call. Occasionally there is a troublemaker who wouldn't accept $1,000. This willingness to accept table is the supply schedule. When we plot it, we get the supply curve for supply and demand model of the market for an emergency phone call. Now the tables are turned. You're the desperate person needing to make this extremely urgent phone call. How many of you would pay $1,000? Typically, there is some diehard romantic willing to pay $1,000. Now we start another table labeled willingness to pay. How many of you would pay $100? Again, anybody willing to pay $1,000 is certainly willing to pay $100. And at $10, most of them are in. So we record this. Then at $1, I say something like, your relationship isn't worth $1? Is romance truly dead? So almost everyone is in for $1 or more. We record this. Then at 10 cents, there's still a holdout or two. And even at 1 cent, it has something to do with an acrimonious breakup. This willingness to pay table is the demand schedule. When we plot it, we get the demand curve for a supply and demand model of the market for an emergency phone call. The willingness to accept and willingness to pay data are exogenous to that model. Exogenous, exo, outside, genus, created or generated. We collect these data through this very scientific survey. When we plot the demand curve over the supply curve, however, we get new information, the equilibrium price and quantity. These are endogenous to our model. Endo, inside, genus, created or generated. The equilibrium price is around $5. This has been surprisingly consistent across multiple sessions of multiple courses over multiple years. The equilibrium quantity, however, has varied quite a lot. Though we use lots and lots of models in economics, very many of them are of this form. Combine two sources of exogenous data and find the endogenous equilibrium. And as I will remind you every time it comes up, every student of physics knows that a frictionless inclined plane and a spherical cow with no wind resistance really don't exist. They're models. Students of economics must remember that our models are just that, models, and don't really exist.